car accident changed everything. My best friend and I were both injured. Vincent, in a panic, dragged her, whose leg was wounded, away from the crash with all his strength, while I, on the verge of falling into shock, was completely ignored. That was when I finally understood that all those years of guarding and loving him had been nothing but a joke. I was burned alive in the exploding wedding car, and when I opened my eyes again, I was back to 10 years ago. At that time, Vincent had nothing. He was being pinned down in the mud by several spoiled rich kids for standing up for a delicate little girl. They laughed and mocked him, demanding he lick their shoes. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he silently looked at me for help. But this time, I turned my eyes away, calm and indifferent. A man who can't be raised to loyalty is nothing more than trash. Aaron, Yvonne's leg is injured. If we don't get her treated in time, she may never be able to dance again. Please wait. Let me get her into the ambulance first, and then I'll come back for you. At the accident scene, Vincent's face was full of anxiety, and his eyes were bloodshot. What was laughable was that none of that worry was for me. Even though he was my husband, everything he said and did was about another woman. Because of excessive blood loss, I grew dizzy, almost thinking I had misheard. Vincent Dawson, are you out of your mind? I'm your wife, and yet you want to save Yvonne? Her leg is hurt, yes, but I'm dying. You frowned slightly, his eyes passing over my wedding dress soaked in blood. For a brief moment, a trace of emotion flickered across his face, but in the next second, Yvonne, not far away, whimpered and called out, "Vinny!" The hesitation in his eyes instantly disappeared. "Sophia, stop making a fuss. You're the heir of the Summers family. How could you die so easily? But Yvonne is different. Dancing is her dream. Losing her legs would be worse than death to her. Could you stop being so selfish?" Impatiently, Vincent pried my hands off and ran straight toward Yvonne without looking back. The last image I saw before I died was Vincent carrying Yvonne away. She nestled pitifully in his arms, and as if she had just won a battle, she turned to me and gave a triumphant smile. What a joke this was. The man I had wasted 10 years of my life loving. A single tear fell onto my wedding dress. In the next moment, a deafening explosion rang out, and flames engulfed me, devouring me completely. When I opened my eyes again, the school bell was ringing. I had returned to the campus from 10 years ago. Not far away, I heard a muffled grunt. My heart skipped a beat. I walked over quietly, only to see Vincent Dawson being held down in a mud pit by a group of rich kids. The ringleader, Zach Carter, carelessly shoved his mud-covered shoe in front of Vincent. "Lick it clean." Vincent clenched his teeth and turned his head away, looking toward the wall where a group of students was laughing and watching the show. When he spotted me, his expression relaxed and a cold, confident smile appeared at the corner of his lips. "Zach, does Sophia know you're treating me like this?" Zach hesitated slightly. A week ago, under Yvonne's manipulations, I had openly confessed my feelings for Vincent. The entire school knew I liked him. I was the only daughter of the Summers family, and my family owned this elite academy. Even Zach didn't dare to cross me. Vincent gave a contemptuous smile, clearly expecting this reaction. Zach, angered by the arrogance in his eyes, lost his temper and stomped Vincent's face into the mud. "You really think Sophia would fall for someone like you? Do you even know what kind of family the Summers are? To her, you're nothing but a cheap plaything." Vincent struggled in humiliation and turned to me for help. His voice pleaded, "Sophia." Zach followed his gaze toward me. Instantly, he backed away a few steps in fear. The others around him also looked uneasy. I couldn't blame them. In my previous life, I had a bold and fiery personality. When I saw Vincent being bullied, I exploded with rage and reported them to the school board. Their records were marked with serious disciplinary warnings. Zach and the others were severely scolded by their families. I heard they had to kneel for so long their knees swelled. Later, I found out Vincent had only gotten into trouble because he was standing up for a classmate. That was the moment I truly lost all feelings for Vincent Dawson. 10 years of devotion had been wasted all because I had meddled in his business. I lowered my eyes, thinking of the pain and regret I felt right before I died. My expression turned cold. Zach Carter noticed the change in my face and, unwilling to back down, muttered through gritted teeth, "Sophia, don't be mad. We'll stop right now. Before he could finish, I nodded and said calmly, you're right, Zach. Guys like him are just for fun. I'm over it now. If you want to mess with him, go ahead. Without hesitation, I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard Zach and the others laughing. I thought you were someone impressive, one of them mocked. This is hilarious, acting all high and mighty in front of us like Sophia actually cares about you. Please, another scoffed. You think someone like her would fall for trash like you? Beat him. Hit him hard. The sounds of fists landing on flesh echoed from the corner, along with Vincent's painful screams. I thought back to the disbelieving look in his eyes just now, and my heart filled with satisfaction. Surprised Vincent? This beating is nothing compared to the pain I endured being burned alive, and this is just the beginning. What's coming will hurt even more. Back in class, Yvonne rushed up to me, clearly impatient. She peeked behind me, but when she saw Vincent wasn't there, the smile on her face faded. Sophia, didn't I tell you to go? Vincent, that was the perfect chance to make a good impression. You didn't go. She tried to act nonchalant, but the worry and tension in her eyes betrayed how much she cared about him. Far more than normal. Same old tricks. I remembered clearly from my past life. It was always me standing up for Vincent, but Yvonne would turn around, play the victim in front of him, and take all the credit. Vincent was completely convinced that Yvonne only pretended to be nice to me for his sake. He had no idea that I had never treated her unfairly. When Yvonne got sick, I spent money and effort to get her the best medical team. But a greedy heart is never satisfied. I treated Yvonne like a friend, and while she enjoyed every benefit I gave her, she was scheming behind my back to take everything from me. On our wedding day, she suddenly jumped out into the road to stop the car convoy, causing a pileup. She injured her leg, disrupted the wedding, and indirectly led to my death. Who's to say it wasn't all part of her plan? Looking at the youthful face in front of me and the malice barely hidden in her eyes, I sneered. Nope, he's just a plaything. Do you really think I'd go out of my way to impress someone like that? Don't you think watching him get beat up is kind of fun? Yvonne was stunned. Her face turned bright red once she processed what I said. But not wanting to offend me, she forced a smile. Unfortunately for her, she wasn't yet the seasoned actress she'd become 10 years from now. The hatred and resentment in her eyes gave away everything she was trying to hide. And another thing, I added, from now on, you better use my full name when you speak to me. You're not worthy of calling me Sophie. The classroom fell silent. Everyone turned to look at Yvonne with a meaningful expression, as if they were watching a good show. The color drained completely from her face. I returned to my seat without another word. A moment later, Yvonne, eyes brimming with tears, gave me one last look before running out of the classroom. I knew exactly where she was going, to find Vincent. She probably thought I was mad at him and was taking it out on her, but she had no idea I had already made up my mind. From now on, I wouldn't let either of these two backstabbers take a single thing from me. Not even a needle or a thread. Sitting one row ahead and to the right, Felicia Chun scoffed. And here I thought you'd keep letting Yvonne fool you. Guess you're not that dumb after all. She ruined my dress and still had the nerve to blame me. I'll never get it. How did a fake little damsel like her and a pretentious jerk like Vincent sneak into our school? Felicia was talking about Yvonne and Vincent. Come to think of it, the reason she disliked Yvonne to begin with was that Yvonne had ruined one of her dresses in my previous life. Yvonne claimed Felicia had bumped into her on purpose to frame her, but now it was obvious Yvonne had done it intentionally, then played the victim to avoid paying compensation. When Vincent found out, he stood up. Or her, and told Felicia to be more forgiving. That was what pushed Felicia over the edge, and made her call in Zach for revenge. But seriously, when you do something wrong, isn't apologizing and compensating the most basic thing to do? Maybe that was exactly why Felicia had always looked down on Yvonne and Vincent. She thought they were fake. In my past life, I argued with Felicia constantly in order to defend the two of them. We clashed so much we practically became enemies. But thinking back on it now, Felicia had seen through them from the very beginning. I nodded, deliberately ignoring the sarcasm in her voice. You're right. Felicia clearly didn't expect me to agree so easily, and looked at me like I'd grown a second head. What's wrong with you? Did someone hit you in the head? I couldn't help but think about how in my previous life, even though Felicia always mocked me, she constantly tried to steer me away from Yvonne and Vincent. Every time Vincent ditched me, Felicia would just so happen to run into me, throwing out biting comments while silently sitting down to have dinner with me. I smiled at the memory. Those lonely gray days of the past had been made more bearable by her unexpected presence. Felicia saw me smile. Instead of getting mad, she immediately rubbed the goosebumps on her arm with a shiver, turning away like she couldn't handle the weirdness. I, on the other hand, was thinking maybe this time around Felicia and I could actually become friends. It wasn't until the bell rang that Yvonne came stumbling into the classroom, helping Vincent along. Both of them were covered in mud and looked like complete messes. Vincent especially had a bruised face and was limping. The music teacher, a strict no-nonsense middle-aged woman, glanced at them and immediately frowned. She had been about to scold them for being late and looking like that, but when her gaze landed on me, she held back. "What happened to you two?" she asked. Yvonne bit her lip and glanced at me, hesitating like she wanted to say something but thought better of it. Anyone who didn't know better would think I'd forced them into some grueling labor to leave them looking like that. I raised an eyebrow, just about to respond when Felicia snorted loudly from the front. "Oh please," she muttered, rolling her eyes. "Who are you trying to fool with that pitiful look? Sophia made it clear in front of everyone that she's cutting ties with you. Why are you looking at her like a kicked puppy? Doesn't that make you sick?" Yvonne's eyes immediately turned red while Vincent said nothing. The teacher waved her hand, annoyed enough. "You two go stand in the back." Yvonne and Vincent picked up their books and headed to the back of the classroom for punishment for the entire class period. I could feel Vincent's gaze clinging to my back like cold, thick tar. It was suffocating. As soon as the bell rang and the teacher left the room, the rest of the class stayed glued to their seats, waiting for drama to unfold. Vincent walked over to me with his book in hand, looking somewhat aggrieved. "Sophia," he said, "did I do something to make you mad?" From the side, Felicia, who had been eavesdropping, turned to look at me with a face that clearly said, "If you believe him, I'll laugh at you for a year." Honestly, seeing him like that disgusted me too. I slammed my book onto the desk with a loud bang. "This place was fine until two eyes decided to sneak in," I said coldly. Vincent's face went pale. Yvonne quickly stepped in front of him, her eyes slightly red as she spoke stubbornly. "Sophia, no, I mean Miss Summers, if I did anything to upset you, I can change, but please don't take it out on Vincent." Gratitude flickered across Vincent's face, touched by her words. I let out a sharp, cold laugh. "Is that so? Fine then, just seeing your face annoys me. How about you drop out?" A round of laughter erupted in the classroom. A flash of anger crossed Yvonne's eyes, and her face turned bright red. "Sophia, stop joking around." "I'm not joking," I said flatly, my tone icy. "Do you want me to list everything you've taken from me lately? Should we tally it up? All those clothes, jewelry, and meals I gave you? I'll just consider them wasted on a dog from now on. Stay away from me, and if I ever catch you using my name to throw your weight around again, I'll make sure you get kicked out of this school." A wave of gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. Everyone turned to whisper and point at Yvonne. No wonder she's always hanging around Sophia. She was just trying to milk her for benefits, right? And she acts like being with Sophia is such a burden. Please, Sophia pays for all her meals. I even overheard her trash-talking Sophia behind her back. As I listened to their gossip, I noticed even Vincent's expression toward Yvonne had changed. At this point, the two of them hadn't known each other for even a year. Vincent only had mild interest in her at best. Now whatever little goodwill he had was probably gone too. "Sophia, how could you do this?" Yvonne hadn't expected me to expose her in front of everyone. In the end, she could only stomp her foot and run out of the classroom in tears. Vincent let out a sigh and turned to comfort me. "Sophia, don't be mad. She's still young and immature, she'll change. Please don't stay angry." As he spoke, he started moving toward the seat next to mine. Oh right, at this point in time, he and I were still desk mates. No one else wanted to sit with him, and I had volunteered to share a desk just so others wouldn't bully him. Because I protected him, his 3 years in high school had gone so smoothly. Even the teachers gave him some leeway because of me. Later, I even followed him to college. After graduation, I spent 10 years clearing the path for him, helping him get everything he wanted. Even in the last moment of my life, during the car crash, I shielded his head with my own body and took the hit, getting shards of glass stabbed deep into my abdomen. But I had entrusted my life to the wrong person. Snapping out of my thoughts, I shoved his desk aside coldly. I'm switching seats. I looked at Felicia, wanting her to be my desk partner. Wait me. Felicia blinked in surprise, pointing to herself. You're asking me? Who else is there, a second Felicia in this class? Felicia's eyes darted back and forth between me and Vincent. No one knew what went through her head, but she huffed in her usual sundry tone, tossed her ponytail, and dropped her bag on the desk next to mine. Fine, guess you finally developed some taste, she shot Vincent a side glance. What are you looking at? Go find your new seat. No way. I'm not switching. Vincent's current desk mate immediately objected, standing up. One after another, voices joined in across the room. No one wanted to sit with him. Vincent clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. He bit his lip hard enough to bleed. Humiliation etched across his face. Sophia, what did I ever do to deserve this kind of revenge? You're wrong, I said, smiling faintly. This isn't revenge. I'm just done helping you. From the moment he enrolled at this elite school, Vincent had looked down on all the rich kids here, including me. He thought we were lazy and unmotivated, wasting our privilege. He held himself above us, morally superior. That arrogance had earned him more enemies than friends. I was the only one who ever extended a hand to help him, but now I didn't want to anymore. Even a dog raised for 10 years would wag its tail, but Vincent, he wasn't someone who could be warmed. Since no one was willing to sit with him, the teacher assigned him to a corner seat with Yvonne. But all afternoon, Yvonne was nowhere to be found. Who knows who she was waiting for to come looking for her? Finally, when school ended, Yvonne reappeared. Sophia, she chirped, jogging up to me and latching onto my arm like nothing had happened. Her expression was flawless, like we had never had a falling out. I stared at her blankly and moved my arm away. Felicia, you coming or what? Felicia hadn't even processed what was going on before I grabbed her and started walking. Where are we going? Hey, stop pulling. I just got these shoes. You stepped on one. Footsteps followed close behind us. Yvonne, clearly biting back frustration, trailed after me and Felicia. When she caught me glancing back, she still forced a smile. I couldn't help but wonder when Yvonne became so thick-skinned. At this point in the past, wouldn't she have already turned away to cry to Vincent and play the victim? But when we got to the dance studio, I understood. Right before the last period, the music teacher announced the upcoming school anniversary performance. The dance troupe's lead, Sophia Summers, would be leading the group on stage. In my previous life, Yvonne had applied to join the troupe early on, using the excuse that she wanted to keep me company. But in reality, she couldn't even afford the tuition or the cost of a dance uniform. She had pouted and whined until I covered everything for her. I really was an idiot. Not only did I pay all her expenses, I even personally taught her. I was mysteriously locked in the dance studio, determined to fulfill my responsibility as the lead and not let the show fall apart. I had no choice but to jump out the window. What I didn't expect was that someone had scattered thin, sharp shards of glass all over the ground beneath it. I missed the performance and worse, I injured my legs so badly I could never dance again. Yvonne came crying to me afterward, saying she would fulfill my dream for me, and I actually believed her. My brother was so moved by her gesture that he hired a renowned instructor for her and covered all her expenses for both dance training and school. But in the end, how ironic. When the car crash happened, Vincent chose to save Yvonne's legs so she could keep dancing at the cost of my life. He remembered that dancing was Yvonne's dream, but he completely forgot that once it had been mine too. Felicia grumbled with a long face as I dragged her into the dance studio. I can't dance to save my life. Are you messing with me again? But her feet obediently followed, not resisting at all. After the dance team finished changing into their uniforms, we began warming up. Yvonne tried a few times to strike up a conversation with me, but I coolly shut her down every time. Before long, the music teacher arrived. The moment she saw Yvonne still in her regular clothes, her brows knitted together. Yvonne, why haven't you changed yet? Yvonne looked like she was about to cry. Sophia, no, I mean the lead didn't give me a dance outfit. The teacher turned to me, clearly displeased. Sophia, what's going on? I gave Yvonne a confused glance, my expression perfectly innocent. But teacher, Yvonne hasn't paid for her uniform. She didn't even pay for the class. Actually, Yvonne's expression froze. From the rest area came a loud snort. Felicia lounged in a chair and said mockingly, "Girl, you didn't pay, and you're blaming someone else for not giving you clothes? What next? You starve and blame others for not spoon-feeding you." A few other team members couldn't hold back their laughter either. Yvonne's face turned pale, then red, then pale again. She shot Felicia a vicious glare. Seeing Yvonne lingering and not leaving, the music teacher grew irritated. "Yvonne, I only let you into the troupe out of respect for Sophia. But now you can't even afford a uniform, let alone future costs. This just isn't the path for you. You should go." Yvonne bit her lip hard and cast a pitiful look at me. "But Sophia's the one who brought me here. Isn't it her responsibility to pay for me?" The entire team was stunned by her shamelessness. Felicia exploded. She jumped up from her seat. "You really have no shame, do you? Sophia's already cut ties with you, and you're still asking for money? What? Does the whole world owe you something? God, I swear I'm going to." Seeing Felicia roll up her sleeves and get ready to charge at her, and noticing the music teacher growing impatient and my unmoving, indifferent stance, Yvonne glared at me one last time before wiping her tears and running off. Watching her leave, an odd feeling rose in my chest. Why was Yvonne so obsessed with dancing? Even in my previous life, her fixation had reached an eerie level. With my brother's support, she'd even taken out a massive insurance policy on her legs. A thought suddenly raced through my mind, fast and sharp, and started to take shape. After Yvonne ran crying out of the studio, I thought she might finally quiet down for a while, and she did. But Vincent didn't. He blocked me outside the sports field. I rolled my eyes. "If you've got something to say, say it. If not, get lost." A shadow flickered across his expression, but he spoke self-righteously. "Sophia, I don't know what I did to upset you, but whatever it is, you shouldn't take it out on Yvonne." My God, I couldn't believe he actually said that out loud. I crossed my arms and gave him a slow, scornful smirk. "You think I'm going after Yvonne because of you, Vincent? Did you forget to look in the mirror this morning?" My voice wasn't loud or soft, but just right, clear enough for the growing crowd of gossip-hungry classmates gathering around to hear every word. As soon as I finished speaking, the crowd erupted in gasps and whispers. A number of students who had long been fed up with Vincent joined in, mocking his arrogance from every direction. Vincent let out a sharp, angry laugh. "Wasn't it you? Weren't you the one chasing after me? And now, just because I'm close with Yvonne, you're deliberately targeting her. So you're saying that just because I said a few nice things to you and sat next to you in class, I must have liked you?" I curled my lips into a smirk. "Have you always been this full of yourself?" Vincent stood there, frozen, disbelief written all over his face. I scoffed and turned to leave without another word. But then cries of alarm rang out all around me. I immediately felt something was off. The moment I turned back, a figure darted in front of me, Felicia. She was struck down by a fast-flying volleyball, her knees slamming hard against the ground. "Felicia!" I rushed over, stunned and furious, helping her up. Luckily, it was only a minor knee injury. I finally let out a small breath of relief. Tracing the path of the volleyball, I saw Yvonne working behind a crowd of students, her face full of guilt. Fury surged in my chest. I helped Felicia over to a bench and sat her down. "Wait here. Watch carefully how I get revenge for you." At some point, the entire stadium had gone silent. After all, gossip was more entertaining than volleyball. I stormed across half the court and stopped right in front of Yvonne, my voice cold as ice. "You dropped the ball." There were cameras in the gym. She knew denying it would be pointless, so she quickly switched to her usual pitiful act. Her eyes reddened as she looked down and said softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I don't know how to play volleyball." The moment she admitted it, I slapped her hard across the face. A bright red handprint bloomed instantly across her cheek. Our pale cheek, the skin slightly swelling, the sound of gasps echoed all around us. Yvonne clutched her face in shock. Clearly, she hadn't expected me to hit her without a word and with such force. Sophia Vincent finally snapped out of it and rushed over, full of rage. "What do you think you're doing?" Yvonne burst into tears, crying out sweetly, "Vinny!" I curled my lips into a cruel smile and, right in front of Vincent, delivered a slap to the other side of Yvonne's face. The crowd went completely silent. Then came a wave of stunned gasps. Yvonne collapsed to the ground, her whole body radiating weakness and helplessness like some fragile, lonely little lamb. Vincent hurried to help her up, his eyes blazing with fury as he glared at me. "Sophia, you think just because your family owns this school you can do whatever you want? How could you slap a classmate like that in front of everyone? You're unbelievable." "Unbelievable," I sneered. "Vincent, if your eyes are broken, drop out. If your brain's not working, go get checked at a psych ward." Yvonne tried to hit me with a volleyball. If anything had happened to me, 2 slaps wouldn't even begin to cover it. She couldn't pay it back even if she sold that pig's head on her neck. Vincent's brows furrowed into a deep crease as he scanned me. "You're fine, aren't you? Was that really necessary? Since when did you become so unreasonable? I never realized you were this aggressive." "So what you're saying is I'm only acting like this because I'm jealous of how close you and Yvonne are?" I couldn't help but let out a laugh. I was genuinely amused by the stupidity. If only he knew that in the last life I had died indirectly because of these 2 people. And yet here he was saying I was jealous. Still, his righteous tone actually convinced quite a few clueless onlookers. Soft whispers spread through the stadium. Even Yvonne raised her head and looked at me with a face full of judgment and condemnation. "You think I'm jealous of her?" I said flatly. "Let's break this down, shall we? Safia Summers, have money, top grades, and I'm the lead of the school's dance troupe. What exactly does Yvonne have that I could possibly be jealous of?" I turned my icy gaze to Vincent. "And you, Vincent, do you honestly believe your so-called affection for her is worth anything? You think your approval is gold-plated?" A few people around us couldn't help but burst into laughter. Vincent's face turned crimson with embarrassment and rage. "Then explain why you've been going after Yvonne again and again lately. She threw a ball at me. I gave her a slap. That's fair." I looked Yvonne dead in the eye, my tone full of biting sarcasm. "Did you really think saying sorry after hitting someone was going to cut it? If no one teaches you a lesson, what happens when you hit another classmate next time? It's bad enough you can't play. Do you also lack basic decency?" As soon as the words left my mouth, students around us began chiming in agreement. Some even started shouting that Yvonne should pay compensation, but, of course, Yvonne had no money, so she could only slip away as fast as she could. Vincent, who had stood up for her, didn't get off so easy. He was immediately labeled the golden boy of Puan South, and became the butt of endless jokes and mockery. Some even sarcastically started calling him Mr. Golden Aura. Once I got rid of the annoying duo, I helped Felicia up. "Come on, let's get you to the nurse's office." Felicia waved her hand like she didn't want to trouble me. "No need, it's just a scrape. Might leave a scar though." "Scar or not, we're going in the nurse's office." The school nurse was treating Felicia's wound. Her face was scrunched in pain as she gritted her teeth. That shady snake, Yvonne. I saw it clearly. He aimed straight at me. I swear I'm not letting this go. Her words made my heart stir. In my previous life, not long after my leg injury, Felicia had been hit on the head by a falling flower pot and ended up with a mild concussion. She had to stay home to recover for a while. During that time, rumors spread that I had arranged the accident as revenge since people believed Felicia was the one who caused my injury. Now that I think about it, there had been something off about all of it. Maybe someone had been pulling strings behind the scenes from the very beginning. But who would hate me and Felicia enough to set us up like that? The answer was obvious. I gave Felicia a subtle warning to keep an eye on Yvonne, but she brushed it off with a scoff. Her mess with me? One finger and I could squash her. But no thief ever announces when they're coming. Just because she hadn't struck yet didn't mean we should let our guard down. So I suggested, "Why don't you join the dance troupe? That way I can keep an eye on you. Felicia hesitated. But I don't know how to dance. Then she narrowed her eyes suspiciously. You're not plotting to prank me again, are you? I knew she had a soft heart under all that sass. I clasped my hands together and looked at her with full sincerity. Please, please just do it for me. I'll feel better knowing you're there. I blinked at her with big innocent eyes. Felicia's gaze shifted, her ears turned red. It's just dancing, right? I'll learn. She even brushed her chin confidently and mumbled under her breath. Didn't think I was that important to you. I mean, I've always been pretty dazzling. I grinned. As long as you're happy. And just like that, Felicia officially joined the dance troupe. Not wanting to drag us down, she practiced diligently every day. Meanwhile, Yvonne, who had been desperate to join, was rejected because she couldn't afford the steep fees. Every time she saw Felicia and me heading into the dance studio together, the glare she shot at our backs could have burned 2 holes through our spines. 3 months later, when news spread that I'd be performing at the school's anniversary celebration, my brother, one of the school board members, made time to attend. While getting my makeup done, I noticed Yvonne backstage. Even though she wasn't in the program, the moment she saw me, she didn't back down. Other than the usual pitiful act, she just stared at me deeply, then turned and walked away. Because of the scene in the gym, both Yvonne and Vincent had become targets of ridicule. All those people Yvonne had offended by throwing my name around were now settling scores with her. Without my help, Yvonne and Vincent were struggling just to survive at this elite school. They shouldn't have had the energy to cause trouble anymore, or so I thought. When the dance troupe lined up backstage, ready to perform, I spotted Vincent and Yvonne standing just below the steps. Vincent averted his eyes when he saw me looking. Yvonne, on the other hand, met my gaze directly and smiled. That smile was strange, my brow furrowed, and a strong sense of unease crept up my spine. But when my eyes caught my brother's encouraging look from the audience, I forced the feeling down. In the second half of the performance, the other dancers moved back, and I stepped forward, twirling light as air, my dress fluttering under the stage lights like a glowing ripple. Thunderous applause echoed through the auditorium. I focused all my energy into stretching and flowing through each movement. My eyes nearly welled with tears. This was my dream, and once I had lost it. Thankfully, heaven hadn't forsaken me. It gave me another chance to reclaim everything I had lost. Immersed in the dance, I didn't notice that Vincent was standing at the base of the steps, watching me in a trance. Just as I reached the most passionate and joyful part of the performance, the music cut off abruptly. The big screen on stage suddenly lit up with a video. A loud, crisp slapping sound echoed throughout the auditorium. In the footage, Yvonne was clutching her cheek, looking pitiful as she lowered her head and whispered, "I'm sorry." Across from her, I stood with a cold face, looking arrogant and unrepentant. If your eyes are broken, drop out. If your brain's broken, go to a psych ward. I, Sophia Summers, have money, looks, and talent. The audience immediately erupted into whispers. I had no choice but to stop dancing. Yvonne charged up onto the stage, microphone in hand, and in front of all the faculty and students, burst into tears as she accused me of bullying her. All because of a man. Sophia didn't just subject me to terrible school violence. She even used her connections to kick me out of the dance troupe and steal my chance to perform. These videos are the proof. The auditorium exploded in shock. Even the journalists who had only come to cover the school anniversary hadn't expected to stumble upon such explosive drama. Flashbulbs flickered nonstop. My brother's face darkened as he started striding toward the stage, clearly about to intervene, but I looked at him calmly and subtly signed for him to stop. I was just about to speak when someone beat me to it. Fishia ripped the decorative veil from her head and shouted, "If you hadn't thrown a volleyball at us first, who would have even cared about you?" My knees still bleeding from that hit, Yvonne cried. Even harder, this school's privately owned. Of course, you'd all side with Sophia no matter what. Us poor kids do, it's always wrong. Even as she cried, I noticed the way her gaze kept flickering sideways, stealing glances at my brother. I narrowed my eyes. I took the microphone from Felicia. Just then, Vincent also stepped onto the stage to testify. I can vouch for everything she said. It's all true. I laughed. That's very convincing, Vincent. Yvonne, since you say I abused my privilege, why don't you explain why the teacher didn't let you dance in the first place? I stammered, unable to give a straight answer. If this were the old me, I probably would have already lost my temper and slapped someone. With the way people tend to side with the underdog, all Yvonne had to do was cry a little, and everyone would have taken her side. But luckily, I now had 10 more years of life experience. The moment I saw the edited video, I had someone pull the surveillance footage from both the gym and the dance studio. I gave a signal to my team off stage. The screen changed, now the unedited footage played. It clearly showed Felicia being hit first in the gym, and also Yvonne being asked to leave the dance studio for not paying his fees. The room burst into laughter. My brother walked up on stage and politely escorted Vincent away. His eyes sparkled with quiet pride as he stepped down. But as I looked at his slightly flushed cheeks, a strange suspicion crept into my heart. Could it be Felicia had a crush on my brother? Thinking back to my previous life, Felicia had always found excuses to be near my brother, using dancing as an excuse to get close. She even went out of her way to perform in front of him. Come to think of it, she only insisted on learning dance after hearing me mention that my brother liked dancers. No wonder she had kept her relationship with Vincent low-key in front of others from the start. Vincent had just been her backup plan. The real target she had always wanted was my brother. The thought made my feelings a little complicated. As for Yvonne, could she really believe that my brother would fall for her? My brother was already engaged. After the celebration, Yvonne was asked to leave the school for fabricating lies and causing major damage to the school's reputation. Yvonne's eyes widened in disbelief. She looked at my brother with a pitiful expression, silently pleading. But my brother didn't even glance at her. He walked straight over to me with a worried expression. Sophia, are you okay? A wave of warmth filled my chest. I'm fine. Yvonne bit his lip and looked toward the principal. I was only admitted because of my outstanding grades. The principal was furious. And yet you ruined the entire school celebration. Vincent's face darkened even more. You still have the nerve to talk. Have you seen how much your grades have dropped since this whole thing started? You and Vincent clearly haven't been focusing on school at all. You slander your classmates and cause chaos. You've corrupted the whole school atmosphere. No matter how much he begged, the principal refused to let Yvonne stay. She was expelled on the spot. A few days later, Yvonne returned to the school with her parents, and in front of everyone, they dropped to their knees and begged the principal. They begged the school not to give Yvonne another chance. Her parents stood there in worn, stained clothes, clearly working class. But before they could even finish speaking, Yvonne lashed out at them in front of everyone, shouting that they had no dignity, calling them disgraceful, and yelling that she'd rather drop out than grovel for help. Then she stormed off, face covered in her hands. Back in class, everyone was talking about Yvonne being expelled. Vincent sat silently at his desk, but that didn't stop people from poking fun at him. Felicia threw him a sarcastic glance. Didn't someone run on stage to defend Yvonne? Why don't you go join her on the way out? Vincent ignored her. Ever since I walked into the room, his eyes had been glued to me. When I sat down, he actually stood up and came over, lifting his hand to touch my cheek. I was so startled I slapped his hand away on instinct. What do you think you're doing? Vincent smiled. He leaned in slightly, gazing at me tenderly. Sophia, you're back too. It was the Vincent from 10 years in the future. He had come back too. I froze. When you were dancing on stage, everything came rushing back to me. There was a deep, nostalgic look in his eyes. After you died, I finally realized how much you meant to me. I was just too insecure. That's why I used Yvonne to provoke you, to make you jealous. But I know now I was wrong. Sophia, let's start over. Vincent looked at me with such sincerity. I stared back coldly. Get lost, Vincent. He just smiled as if he expected that response. His expression was soft and indulgent. It's okay for you to be mad right now. After all, I don't have anything, no status, no power. But it's fine. Once I rebuild everything and reclaim what I had, I'll prove to you that I'm the best choice you'll ever have. I responded with a dry gag and a raised middle finger. Idiot. Vincent stared at me deeply for a moment, then said, Fine, just wait. And with that, he got right to work. He started reaching out to some up-and-coming tech entrepreneurs, hoping to invest through technical shares while their companies were still in the early stages. But the reality was he was just a broke student. He couldn't even get time off from school, let alone pull off equity deals. And when he finally got a break, the city he needed to reach was thousands of miles away, and he didn't even have enough money for a plane ticket. Of course, even if he had gone, they probably wouldn't have met with him because I had already beaten him to it. I'd convinced my brother to invest in those very companies and form partnerships. Being able to align themselves with the powerful Summers family was something those startup founders desperately wanted. Vincent thought his success in our previous life was due to his own talent, but without me pulling strings behind the scenes, without my brother handing him contracts and me using my connections to clear his path, how could he possibly have risen so fast in just a few years? Did he really think he was some kind of business genius? Apparently he did. Not only that, he believed the reason he was struggling in this life was because I was deliberately sabotaging him. So when I stayed behind at school one weekend to practice dance, and it happened to be pouring rain outside, Vincent knocked me out. When I woke up, I found myself tied up in a familiar basement. Steam rose from a small pot of boiling water nearby, fogging up his glasses. "Sophia," Vincent said softly. "Do you remember this place? It's where I brought you after I said yes to your confession. You told me you'd stay by my side forever, but in the end, you still abandoned me." He turned around slowly, his eyes burning with madness and resentment. "There was never anything between me and Yvonne. Your death was just an accident. Why can't you forgive me? Why do you have to keep getting your family to target me?" I snorted. "Nothing between you? Weren't you and Yvonne in love?" "Oh right, I forgot. Yvonne liked my brother. You were just her backup plan." Vincent's expression darkened. "That fake little piece of trash," he muttered, then seemed to think of something and suddenly looked relieved. "It's fine. She won't be a problem for us anymore." The water in the pot began to boil, bubbling up louder and louder. Vincent gripped the handle of the pot tightly. "After you died, your brother destroyed everything I built, and now that I've come back, you're going to ruin me all over again. If that's how it is, don't blame me for destroying you first." "You're insane," I said, my voice shaking with fear. Vincent walked toward me, still holding the pot of boiling water, and gave me a soft smile. "I'm not crazy, Sophia, but once your face is ruined, then you'll finally realize who truly loves you in this world. And by then, I'll be the only one willing to stay with you. Don't worry, I won't reject you." 5 steps for steps. Just as Vincent came within 2 steps of me, the fear on my face vanished in an instant. "Oh really?" The next second, the rope around my wrist slipped free. I grabbed the stool beneath me and swung it with all my strength. The pot tipped, and every drop of scalding water splashed across Vincent's face. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the room. The basement door burst open with a loud crash. My brother and Felicia stormed in, followed by a group of police officers who immediately restrained Vincent. "You lied to me, you __. You dare do this to me." Vincent clutched at his face, writhing on the ground, still trying to lunge at me even as he howled in pain. But the officers pinned him down before he could get close. By the time they dragged him out to the police car, blood was already streaming from his eyes, and the skin from the lower half of his face down to his neck was blistered. I passed by him, calmly spinning the butterfly knife I'd hidden in my sleeve. I'd read too many novels lately. You really thought someone like me wouldn't be protected with my family background? At the very least, I've got a tracker and a weapon on me at all times. Vincent clenched his teeth so hard it was like he wanted to crush them into dust. "You planned this. You set me up." I didn't deny it. "Yeah, I did. I didn't want to make things easy for you, so I played along. But the truth was, if he hadn't tried to hurt me, he wouldn't have ended up like this." My brother's face was cold and dark with rage. "Don't worry, Sophia. With charges of premeditated kidnapping and attempted murder, I'll make sure he rots in prison." I trusted my brother completely. Not long after, the police found Yvonne's body in an abandoned building. The murderer, Vincent, due to the horrific nature of the crime, was sentenced to life in prison without parole. After the verdict was issued, Vincent insisted on seeing me one last time. I refused.